That fool, that snake, just knows how to get everything I want before I even find it, he said bitterly. This time, he wouldn't allow it happen. It was either he had her himself or nobody gets to have her. Once upon a time, when the earth was young and the wind still carried the scent of the gods, there lived a kingdom called Ikoko. It sat proudly on the golden hills of the east, where the sun loved to rise every morning. When dawn broke, the red earth of Ikoko glowed like fire. When the wind passed, the tall palm trees bowed and clapped their hands as if greeting the day. Even the birds seemed to sing in gratitude, for Ikoko was not just beautiful. It was a blessed kingdom, blessed with good soil and so many mineral resources. Its men were strong like the Iroko tree, women were graceful like the river, and children laughed so loudly that the hills echoed their joy. People came from faraway land to trade in its markets, and those who visited always said, Ikoko is a jewel among kingdoms. Its red earth smiles, its people live without fear. And truly, the people of Ikoko lived well, for they had a king whose name was both a song and a shield. His name was King Ahanna, the Lion of Ikoko. Ah! He was tall and proud, with eyes that burned with strength and a heart that flowed with kindness. When he walked through the village, even goats stood aside. When he spoke, quarrels ended, and when he smiled, children followed him like chicks after a mother hen. The people often said, Onye nwere zoma nwere chioma, meaning he who has a good king has a good destiny. Ahanna was that king. He ruled not with fear, but with wisdom. He was not just a ruler, he was a father to his people. Every morning, he sat beneath the great Udala tree in the village square to watch and listen to the complaints of his people. He shared food from his royal kitchen with the poor. He sent gifts to widows and helped orphans learn the art of trade. Under his reign, laughter was a language of the land, and peace danced freely in the air. By his side, like every great king, was his beloved queen Noma, a woman whose beauty made even the moon jealous. But it was not her beauty that held the king's heart. It was her kindness. She was soft, humble, gentle, and wise. When she spoke, her words soothed like cold water on a hot day. The people often said, if the king is our head, then the queen is in our hearts. They were an inseparable pair, and their love was the pride of Ikoko. Often, they would be seen walking hand in hand through the palace garden, where the hibiscus flowers perfumed the air. And when they laughed together, even the guards smiled without knowing why. King Ahanna had been married for years to his wife, but they had no child yet. Still, their love blossomed like petals and their home filled with joy. He believed that the gods would visit them at the appointed time and didn't allow his queen worry at all. And the gods did visit them after some years. The queen took in, and the gods blessed them with a son, a boy whose cries sounded like the beat of a drum. Ah, you should see the kingdom of Ikoko that day. Every single good soul in it was wild with joy. Drums rolled, the people celebrated and jubilated. It was like a huge royal festival. When the child was placed in King Ahana's arms, tears of joy rolled down the mighty king's face. Finally, he had a son, the heir apparent to his throne. "He carries the face of my father," he said. "This one will be the strength of Ikoku." So, King Ahana named him Ikemba, meaning the strength of the kingdom. From that day, the palace glowed brighter. Every dawn began with the prince's laughter, echoing through the royal chambers. Noma sang lullabies that made even the birds hush to listen, and King Ahana often joined, his deep voice blending with hers like thunder and rain. Prince Ikemba grew fast, strong, gentle, and full of light. When he walked, servants smiled. When he laughed, the palace seemed to breathe. He had his father's courage and his mother's heart. The people adored him and prayed for his long life. In the evenings, the king would sit with his wife and son in the royal garden. They would count stars, tell stories of the ancestors, and share kola nuts and wine as laughter filled the night air. Ahana would lift his son high and say, "You are my pride, Ikemba. The land will rest on your shoulders one day." And Noma would smile softly and whisper, "Then, may the gods make his heart pure, for only a pure heart can carry a crown without falling." But my dearest listeners, life is like a calabash of palm wine. It starts sweet, but at the bottom lies bitterness. When Ikemba turned 5, the sun that once smiled on Ikoku began to dim. Queen Noma fell sick. It was a very strange sickness. No healer could name it. Her laughter faded, her songs ceased, and her once bright eyes grew dim. The king, desperate for solutions, sent for the finest dibias and herbalists from across the lands and beyond. He was willing to do anything to save his beloved wife. He promised gold, land, and cattle to anyone who could heal her. But none succeeded. Day after day, the queen grew weaker. Night after night, the king knelt beside her bed, praying to the gods. "Take my throne, take my crown, but please leave my wife." But the gods were silent. And one quiet night, when the moon was full and the crickets sang sadly, Queen Noma took her last breath. The palace cried. The people wailed. The king, who should not be seen crying in public, shut himself in his private chambers, tore his robe, and lay on the floor, his tears soaking the red earth. Little Ikemba clung to his mother's lifeless hand, whispering, "Mama, Mama, please wake up and sing for me." But she didn't wake. The palace of Ikoku were mourning like a widow's wrapper. The red earth that once smiled now looked dull, as if it too wept for the queen. The entire kingdom mourned their beloved queen. For moons, no drums beat, no laughter rose. Even the king's horse neighed softly, as if afraid to disturb the silence. King Ahana moved through the palace like a shadow. His crown weighed heavier than ever. For what is a throne without Noma's joy? Each night, he sat in the queen's chamber staring at her woven mats, her ornaments, her empty seat. He spoke to her spirit as if she still sat before him. "My Noma," he would whisper, "you promised to stay till her hair turned white. Why did you break your promise?" The servants feared to speak. Little Ikemba wandered from room to room, clutching his wooden flute, calling softly, "Mama, Mama, sing for me." but the walls gave him only echoes. Several months passed, and one morning, as the sun rose, the elders gathered before the king. Their beards were long, their eyes kind but firm. So many months had passed since the queen died. Yet, the king had refused to come out or even function as king. Nothing happening in the kingdom mattered to him anymore since his wife's death. It was just as if a part of him had died with her. And even though he still mourned, it is not right that the kingdom should die with her. Things had to return to normal. That was why the elders had come. They bowed low and spoke with caution. "Your Majesty," said the oldest, "what has happened, and we can't take it back. The gods are wise in their ways. We mourn with you, but the land mourns too. The people need laughter again. You need a woman to help you heal. The young prince needs a mother's touch. The gods do not like an empty throne beside the king." The king sighed, his voice still rough with sorrow. Can another woman fill the place of Norma? Can another laugh like her? She was everything to me. I loved her so much. But one of the elders, Mazinduka, bowed and said, "Even a broken calabash must still fetch water if the thirst is great." King Gahana looked at his son, small and lonely beside him, and his heart trembled. He knew they spoke the truth, and so, though his heart still bled, he agreed. He would marry again, even if not for love, but for duty. Several months passed after the meeting with the elders. Somehow, the king had managed to leave the high walls of the palace, smiling and waving at the people, as he used to do, even though his eyes still bore pain. The people were happy to see their king again, after over 1 year since the death of the queen. It was on an evening ride through the village that he first saw her, a maiden at the well. Her skin glowed like ripe palm fruit, her hair shining under the sunset. When she laughed, the air itself seemed to dance. Her name was Achalugo, daughter of Chief Ogwehi, a man known for his power and pride. The king stopped his horse and watched her draw water. The clay pot balanced easily on her head. Her steps were soft. Her waist swayed like music. "Who is she?" he asked his guards. And when they told him, he smiled faintly. Even the gods have painted her well," he murmured. From that day, his thoughts found no rest. For the first time in a long time, he no longer thought about his late wife, Norma. His thoughts were filled with this new maiden that had captured his heart, Achalugo. Within a couple of weeks, gifts began to flow to Chief Ogwehi's compound. Baskets of kola nuts, gold, fine clothes, and jars of wine. And soon the marriage was announced. The kingdom rejoiced, for the people longed to see their king happy again. Women sang, children danced, drums rolled through the hills. They said, "The sun shines again in Ikoko." And when Achalugo rode into the palace, dressed in coral beads and silk, her beauty made mouths fall open. Her smile was soft, her words gentle, and her laughter sweet. At first, all seemed well. She loved and called young Ikemba "my son." She stroked his hair, told him stories, and talked him to sleep. The king seeing her kindness, felt peace for the first time in months. He now laughed again like before. He told his chiefs, "The gods have healed my heart and my home. I'm happy I made this decision." Months later, Achalugo bore a son. The kingdom erupted in celebration. Another prince has been born. The boy was named Ugwabata, meaning the eagle has come to rest. The people sang from morning till night. The eagle has landed. The house of Ikoku is full again. The king's joy has returned completely. Drums thundered, dancers filled the streets. For 7 days the palace feasted. The people believed that Ikoko's days of sorrow had ended. But besties, not every blessing comes from light. Some come wrapped in beauty, hiding thorns beneath silk. From the moment Ugwabata was born, Anachalugo saw that it was a male child. Her eyes, though gentle by day, now carried shadows at night. She smiled, yes, but most times her smile did not reach her eyes. Her voice was sweet, but most times her words stung. The palace maids began to whisper amongst themselves, "The new queen is beautiful, but her heart is quiet, too quiet." Sometimes she watches Prince Ikemba as if counting his breath. But who would dare speak such things aloud? Not when they still wanted to live. The king still saw only her charm, and Achalugo knew how to wield her feminine power, and she held the king spellbound with her charms. To the king, Achalugo was the balm that healed his grief. He adored and trusted her completely. Yet, the gods were watching, and the river spirits murmured softly to the wind. For though Achalugo's face shone like morning dew, her heart had begun to darken, slowly, silently, and in that darkness, jealousy was growing like wheat in fertile soil. And it was all because of Ikemba. Ikemba, the heir apparent to the throne. You see, at first, she had embraced him as her child and loved him. But Ikemba seemed to be a special child, everyone's favorite. It was just as if everything in the palace revolved around him. The king talked about him with so much love in his eyes. And she would watch Ikemba play in the garden, laughing loudly like a child without worries, as the servants surrounded him, ensuring no harm came to him. She would hear the servants call him the true heir, and her smile would fade. She also had a son, Ugwabata, and it was as if everyone forgot that fact. No one really cared about him, and they all treated him as though he didn't exist. She would hold her own son often and whisper, "My eagle will not fly under another's shadow." Years passed, and a new moon had risen in Ikoku, bright, beautiful, and full of promise. The red earth of Ikoku still glowed, but deep beneath it, the first crack of darkness had begun to spread. And that, besties, was how the sun began to set over the smiling kingdom of Ikoku. Yes, the palace of Ikoku still glittered like the morning sun. Its courtyards were filled with music and laughter, but not all laughter was pure. Behind the high walls, two young princes grew like twin trees planted side by side. One straight and gentle, the other wild and restless. From an early age, Prince Ikemba showed the kindness of his late mother. He was gentle in speech, generous with his possessions, and always quick to help others. The servants adored him because he treated them with respect. He saw them like actual humans and not slaves. Often, he would sneak into the palace kitchen to carry firewood for the cooks or sit with the guards by the gates listening to their stories. The people would shake their heads and say, "Ọ bụ nwa eze ma o nweghị obi onye ọgaranya," meaning he is a prince, yet he has the heart of a commoner. In other words, Prince Ikemba was highly loved. Ugwabata, on the other hand, was proud and arrogant. He loved attention, and to him, being a prince was like a lifetime achievement. The palace maids always whispered that maybe in his previous life, he was a nobody, because his pride and arrogance had a PhD degree or even something higher if there was any. It was on another level. He had no respect for anyone and treated the servants like animals. He would yell at the tiniest mistake and his mouth, hey, it was sharper than razor blade. One morning, one of the kitchen maids, an elderly woman, Namaka, had mistakenly spilled tea on the prince at the dining table, and he had almost slapped her as he lashed at her with his tongue. "Do you know how much this royal cloak was bought for? You failed and miserable lunatic. No wonder you are still a slave at your age. You will die a fool and a servant, idiot." Other palace servants around stared in shock, but Ukwabata didn't care. This was just a little bit of how terrible and sharp his mouth could be. Everyone walked on their toes whenever Ugwabata's name was mentioned, and they loved Ikemba more than they would ever love him. But all that was not even the only fault Ugwabata had. He was really obsessed with Ikemba. Ikemba loved him so much as his little brother and treated him with so much affection, but he only saw Ikemba as a competition. If Ikemba was praised for his kindness, Ugwabata would frown and look for a way to draw the spotlight to himself. At festivals, when both boys were dressed in beads and fine wrappers, Ugwabata would often push himself forward, shouting louder during the dances, even when the elders had beckoned Ikemba to lead. Their childhood was filled with moments that revealed the growing divide between them. Ugwabata never saw Ikemba as his brother. Everyone loved and talked about Ikemba, which made Ikemba a threat to him. Someone he always needed to prove to everyone that he was better than. One afternoon, the princes were sword fighting in the palace courtyard when Ugwabata mistakenly broke one of his mother's prized calabashes. The servants rushed in fear, for they knew how much Achalugo cherished it. Before anyone could speak, Ugwabata pointed at Ikemba. "Your favorite prince did it," he shouted, his eyes flashing with mischief. Achalugo stormed in just then, her wrapper tied high around her waist. She looked at the calabash in pieces, then at Ikemba, who stood silently shocked at the false accusation. "Ikemba," her voice thundered, "why are you so careless and destructive? I know you hate me, but must you destroy everything that belongs to me? Would you do the same if it belonged to your own mother, you wicked child?" Tears welled in Ikemba's eyes. "Mother, I did not." "Shut up!" Achalugo snapped, without even listening. She ordered the servants to keep him locked up in his room for 3 days. "You are grounded and must not be seen anywhere outside your room," she thundered. Ugwabata, hiding behind her, smirked in victory. And from a nearby balcony, King Ahana watched. He frowned but said nothing, believing Achalugo was only trying to discipline the boys. But deep within Ikemba's heart, he realized just how much Achalugo hated him. Still, the princes continued to grow. During the annual Iriji festival, that is, the New Yam festival, the princes were chosen to join the wrestling games. They were to represent the royal family. Ikemba with the older boys and Ugwabata with the younger boys of his age. The courtyard was filled with drummers, singers and villagers, eager to watch the young hens display their strength. Ikemba, though older, was not fond of fighting. He wrestled with grace, defeating his opponents without malice, and afterward helped them up with a smile and patted their backs. The crowd clapped and cheered at his humility. But when it was Ugabata's turn, he fought fearlessly, shoving his opponent to the ground and boasting loudly as he beat his chest. I am Ugwabata, the prince of Ikolo Kingdom, who will challenge me. Ugwabata was strong. Everyone could see it. But instead of praising his strength, the villagers murmured, comparing the gentle nature of Ikemba with the fiery temper of Ugwabata. And somehow, it managed to get into Achalugo's ears. That evening, Achalugo stormed into Ikemba's chamber. She couldn't hold back her anger anymore. You evil thing, she screamed. Did you see what happened out there? Why must you make my son look small before the people? She hissed. Do you think you're better than him? Do you think the kingdom belongs to you alone? Ikemba was bewildered. But I did nothing, mother. I only wrestled as the elders asked me to. Ugwabata should learn humility. That is what everyone is trying to say. Achalugo's eyes narrowed. You idiot. You dare call my son proud. So you think you're better than him? You can fool everyone. But I'm no fool, Ikemba. Mark my words. You will not always be the shining light in this palace. You can't take all the shine to yourself while my son lurks behind your shadow. I don't know how you do it, but the sun will set on you, and my son will rise. She gave him a terrifying look before storming out of the room. From that day, everything changed. Achalugo was done. There was no need for pretense or laughing when it didn't reach her heart. Ikemba saw it all. He noticed the coldness in her eyes whenever she looked at him. Nothing he ever did pleased her. Even at meals, whenever he said something that impressed his father the king, and the king praised his wisdom, Achalugo always found a way to talk down on him or make her son the center of attraction. Come on, your majesty, she would say. He's just a child, and you can't tell a wise child at this age. Who knows what he would grow into? Ikemba saw it all, but what could he do? As the years passed, the palace walls grew heavy with silent battles. Ikemba tried to remain dutiful, studying under the elders, training in archery, and helping the king with village affairs. He wanted only to be a good son, but Achalugo's hatred grew like a fire that refused to die. Every act of kindness Ikemba showed was twisted into a fault, while every flaw in Ugabata was excused or praised. And though the king loved Ikemba dearly, his trust in Achalugo blinded him. Seasons rolled into years, and the once playful boys grew into men whose hearts now carried the weight of destiny. They were no longer boys playing with wooden swords in the courtyard. Now, they had grown tall, graceful, and handsome, the pride of their father and the envy of every maiden in the kingdom. Ikemba, fine, tall and broad-shouldered, carried himself with quiet dignity. His voice was steady, his words thoughtful, and his heart remained gentle. His presence brought peace wherever he went. The people called him the prince with a heart of gold. He spoke softly, laughed rarely, and treated everyone with dignity, from the highest chief to the poorest farmer. He was just like his father. He loved the villagers with all his heart and cared for them. The villagers in return often said, if Ikemba sits upon the throne, the land will know peace. He trained with the warriors, mastering the ways of sword and spear, and he was very strong and undefeatable in the battlefield. Yet, he never fought to boast. Instead, he fought to protect. When disputes broke out among the youths, Ikemba's presence alone was enough to calm tempers. Even the elders nodded whenever he spoke, for though he was young, his wisdom carried the weight of an old man's spirit. Ugwabata, however, was a different case entirely. He grew into a proud and boastful young man. Yes, he was strong and fearless in battle games, but his temper and arrogance ruled him. He loved women, wine, dance, and the sound of praise singers more than the discipline of royalty. Yes, he valued the sound of praise singers more than the sound of reason. The two princes were like day and night, one calm and full of light, the other fierce and unpredictable. One afternoon, the two princes visited the great market of Ikuku with the palace guards. The people swarmed to see them, bowing and cheering. Traders pressed forward to offer yams, clothes, and palm oil. Ikemba smiled warmly and asked the women about their children, blessing the newborns, gifting them, and listening to the farmers' struggles. He even helped an old man lift a heavy basket onto his head. The crowd erupted in shouts of praise. Onyo Bioma, Prince with a good heart, they hailed him. Ugwabata, standing beside him, was infuriated. He seized the basket of kola nut without paying and tossed it to his guards. "Take whatever you think I may need," he ordered them. "I am the son of the king," he shouted. "Let's see who dares deny me." Some laughed nervously, but many frowned. The traders began to whisper, comparing the two brothers, and the whispers got into the arrogant prince's ears. That was what Ugwabata hated the most. No matter what he did, Ikemba still always found a way to steal the spotlight. Everyone in the village looked at Ikemba as a hero, while he, Ugwabata, was the devil, the black sheep of the royal household. Mba. That night, he stormed into his mother's chamber, his eyes blazing with anger. "Mother, I've had enough of that stupid fool Ikemba. I hate him. He acts like a commoner, shows no respect for royalty, and always makes me feel like a terrible person before the entire kingdom. You should hear the villagers compare us today, and hear all the mean things they have to say about me," Ugwabata screamed. Achalugo sprang to her feet. "Fools! They dare to compare my own son with that weakling," she spat. Ikemba knows what he is doing. He is trying to steal the hearts of the people." Ugwabata clenched his fist. "Let him beware. I don't care if he's the heir apparent to the throne. A crown is not given for kindness, mother. It is taken." Achalugo's lips curved into a cold smile. She loved the fire burning in her son's eyes. The days flew by quickly, and then months. One golden afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, Prince Ikemba rode out beyond the palace walls. He was feeling really troubled and had decided to go horse riding. Achalugo, his stepmother, had grown into a full-blooded witch, always picking on him and at every single opportunity. She never failed to tell the king how weak he was and how he wouldn't make a good king. His half-brother was also a thorn in his flesh, always picking out fights even when there was none. Life had become so tough lately, and he needed something to keep him sane and going. At least, the air was cool and the wind washed over him. He reined his horse to move faster. It felt so refreshing. His servants followed closely from behind, their horses kicking up gentle dust along the path. The sky painted with streaks of orange, and the scent of ripe yams drifted from the farmlands. It was there, in the heart of that golden evening, that fate decided to write a new story. As they passed by a farmland near the edge of the forest, a sound drifted through the air, soft at first, then rising like the wings of a bird. It was the voice of a maiden singing. Her song was sweet, deep, and rich like palm wine poured from an old gourd. It wrapped around Ikemba's heart, slowing his breath instantly. He felt something he had never felt in a while. Peace. He raised his hand and the servant stopped. "Can you hear that?" he whispered. They nodded, but he was already moving, drawn by the voice like a bee to honey. He followed the song down a narrow path, lined with tall cassava plants and wild flowers. Each note of her song seemed to pull him closer, until, at last, he saw her. There she was, a maiden, standing by a small stream, washing cassava with rhythm and grace, as she sang and danced. Her skin glowed beneath the fading sun, and her waist moved gently with the rhythm of her song. Her hair, long and dark, shone like polished ebony. She was barefoot, yet she balanced with the poise of a queen. She wasn't aware that she was no longer alone. Ikemba froze. He had never seen such beauty, not in the palace, not in the kingdom. The world seemed to still around her. Even the birds fell silent, as though listening to her voice.
The roots hold me, but my heart still calls your name. Where is the one with the key to my heart? Where is the one meant just for me? I bloom unseen in the arms of the earth, waiting for love to set me free. The river hums tune, the wind repeats my sigh. I am the sea the gods have hidden beneath the endless sky. Where is the one with the key to my heart? Where is the one meant just for me? I bloom unseen in the arms of the earth, waiting for love
His heart beat fast, his lips parted, but no sound came out. Her song was doing things, many things to him, yet she hadn't realized that she had spectators. He stood there on his horse, with a smile on his lips watching, until the final note of her song faded into the wind. Only then did he clear his throat softly. The maiden turned in surprise, her eyes widening, when she saw the prince standing before her. The cassava tuber in her hand slipped and fell to the ground. "My prince," she gasped, dropping to her knees. "Forgive me. I did not see you coming." Ikemba smiled, his voice gentle. "Do not kneel, beautiful one. If I were to bow to every heart that carries such a song, I would never rise again." She blushed deeply and rose slowly, her eyes lowered in shyness. "What is your name?" he asked softly. "My name is Adako, my prince," she said, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Daughter of Mazi Okoro, the mat weaver who lives down the village." Interesting. Adako," he repeated, tasting the name slowly as if it were honey. "It suits you well. A gift from wealth itself." He reached into the basket one of his servants carried and took out some fresh mangoes and garden fruits. He offered them to her. "For your voice," he said, "it brightened my day more than the sun itself." Adako hesitated, then accepted the fruits with both hands, bowing lightly. "You honor me, my prince." Ikemba smiled again, but this time it was softer, the kind of smile that lives between the heart and the lips. Then, "I'm honored too, Adako." He turned to leave, but found his feet heavy. Something inside him whispered that his life had just changed. As he mounted his horse, he looked back once more. She stood by the small stream, holding the fruit against her chest, watching him go. And in that moment, Prince Ikemba knew that nothing would ever be the same again. That night, long after the stars rose and the palace drums went silent, he could still hear her song echoing in his heart. He couldn't sleep. The moon hung high, pouring silver light through his window. But all Ikemba saw was her face, Adako. Even when he closed his eyes, she was there, dancing in a garden full of flowers. Her laughter like the sound of flutes, her waist swaying softly to music only the gods could have composed. Her voice floated through his dream like rich melted butter, smooth, sweet, and irresistible. He woke up smiling. For the first time in years, his heart felt light, almost as if it was laughing. He could not understand it, but he knew one thing: he had to see her again. At dawn, he summoned his most loyal guard. "That maiden from yesterday," he said softly, "Adako. Take her some gifts, palm oil, honey, fine clothes, and tell her that the prince wishes to see her again. Tell her he desires to hear her sing once more." And that, my dearest listeners, was how it began. The kind of beginning that only the gods could write. That evening, the palace garden glowed beneath the soft light of the moon. Fireflies danced around the hibiscus bushes, and the night air smelled of jasmine. Then she came, Adako, dressed in her simple attire, her braided hair shining like strands of night. She was barefoot, yet she carried the grace of a queen. When she stepped into the garden, the prince's heart forgot its rhythm. "Welcome, beautiful one," Ikemba said, his voice deep and kind. Adako bowed slightly. "May the gods keep you, my prince." When she began to sing, the garden itself seemed to listen. The flowers stilled, the leaves swayed gently. Her song rose and fell like the tide, sweet, deep, and filled with magic. Ikemba sat in silence, his eyes never leaving her face. Each word she sang felt like a balm to his soul. When the song ended, the prince exhaled softly. She sang like the goddess of beauty herself. And you are so beautiful. Hadaku blushed. Her eyes lowered. You praise me too much, my prince. No, Ikemba replied, smiling. Your voice brings healing to my heart. I would love to hear you sing every day. You know, you remind me so much of my mother. Soft, kind, and full of grace. Tell me your price, and I shall pay you double for your time. But Adaku shook her head gently. No, my prince, you have done enough already. It is nothing but an honor to sing for the son of our great king Anna. Your kindness shines through the land, and this is the least I can do for you. Ikemba stared at her, his heart swelling with admiration. Not only was she beautiful, she was humble, and her words dripped with wisdom, like honey from the comb. He smiled. Then, let it be as you wish. But still, I cannot let you leave empty-handed. He clapped twice, and the palace maids came forward. Fill a basket with fruits and honey for her, he commanded. The maids obeyed, and Adaku bowed deeply. May the gods bless you, my prince, she said softly. As she climbed into the royal carriage, Ikemba's eyes followed her, until she disappeared into the night. The garden fell silent again, but his heart did not. It beat loudly, joyfully, for he knew something sacred had begun. And that night, as he lay on his bed, he whispered her name into the darkness. And the gods, listening from their high mountains, smiled knowingly, for love had finally come to Ikoku. The evening singings became the highlights of the prince's day. When the sun bent low over Ikoku and the last market woman packed her baskets of peppers, Prince Ikemba's heart would begin to beat faster, for he knew that soon Adako would come, and when she came, it was as if the whole palace came alive. The night air always smelled sweeter when she was around. The fireflies blinked bright, and even the frogs by the garden pond seemed to croak in rhythm with her songs. Every evening, she sang and danced while the prince sat watching, completely lost in her voice. The way her waist swayed, the way her laughter sparkled. She was like music made flesh, and the more he watched, the deeper he fell. He didn't know how or when it happened. It was as if the gods had tied invincible strings from his heart to hers. After her songs, they would sit together under the great tree in the garden, in a quiet corner, far from the eyes and ears of curious servants. There they would laugh and share stories about their childhoods. Adako, though from a very poor home, had a childhood full of fun, laughter, and dreams. She told him stories about fetching firewood with her friends, chasing goats that stole yam peels, playing under the moonlight, and sneaking to the stream to dance when her mother thought she was pounding fufu. She spoke of hunger with humor and of struggle with joy. The prince would laugh till tears filled his eyes. You mean you once chased a chicken for 3 days? He asked one night, shaking his head in disbelief. Adaku giggled, her dimples deepening. My prince, that chicken was smarter than some humans. It even made me fall into the gutter twice. They both burst into laughter that echoed through the garden bells. Prince Ikemba couldn't say the same for his own childhood. His life had been all duty and rules. Every smile had been measured, every word weighed. He had never rolled in mud or stolen roasted corn from the fire, but he loved listening to her stories. Her face glowed with joy as she spoke, and he often wondered how one could find happiness in such simple things. Her laughter healed him. Her stories softened him. Her presence felt like a balm to his weary soul. Weeks passed, and the prince discovered more about Adaku. She loved adventure. She was not just a singer or a dancer with a soft heart. She had a wild spirit too. She told him of hidden corners in Ikuko, places he had never seen, the Whispering Hill, the Garden of Three Rocks, and most of all, the waterfall in the forest. The waterfall, the prince had repeated, intrigued. Yes, Adaku said, her eyes shining. You've never been there? It's the most beautiful place in the world. The water falls from a high rock like white clothes, and when it sings, even the birds keep quiet to listen. The prince leaned forward like a curious child. You must take me there. I want to see it with my own eyes. And so, one golden afternoon, they rode out together, just the two of them, on a single horse. Adaku sat behind him, her arms wrapped around his waist for balance. Her laughter carried by the wind. My prince, do you even know how to ride without scaring a lady? She teased. Ikemba chuckled. If you fall, I will jump first to catch you. Big talk, she laughed. Let's hope the ground agrees. They both laughed until the horse neighed in confusion. They rode through tall trees and narrow paths, the leaves above them whispering secrets, and when they finally reached the waterfall, Prince Ikemba gasped. The sight before him stole his breath. The waterfall was a silver ribbon tumbling down a tall rock, throwing mist into the air like morning fog. Sunlight bounced on the water, creating tiny rainbows. Birds danced across the spray, and the air smelled of fresh rain and wildflowers. Prince Ikemba couldn't stop whistling. By the gods of Ikuko, this is paradise, he exclaimed. Adaku smiled proudly. I told you, even the gods come here to wash their feet. The prince laughed. Then today, they will have to share the river with me. The sun was hot, and the water was too inviting. They dropped their sandals and jumped in with a splash that sent the birds flying. The water was cool, playful, and full of joy. They swam, splashed, and chased each other around like two carefree children. Adaku's laughter filled the air, and the prince laughed too, a real laugh, not the polite chuckle of royalty. For the first time in his life, he felt free, completely free. Adaku, he shouted, splashing water at her. My prince, she screamed back, sending a wave right into his face. He wiped his eyes and laughed. So this is how you treat your prince? She grinned mischievously. In the river, we are all equals. They both laughed until their sides hurt. Ikemba had never felt this light. Adaku made him happy, so happy, that he didn't even realize how starved his soul had been until she came. And as they laughed in the river, he reached out and held her hands. The laughter faded softly. The sound of the waterfall seemed to quieten, leaving only the gentle rush of water and the sound of their breathing. He looked into her eyes, and his voice came out in a whisper that trembled with truth. I never knew anyone who would make me feel this way, he said. You've brought so much joy to my heart since I met you. And even when I'm not with you, I can't stop thinking about you. Adaku's heart began to race like a talking drum. She stared at the prince, her lips parting in shock. She hadn't expected this. Yes, she thought about him every night. His laughter, his gentle voice, his kindness. But she had always reminded herself that he was a prince and she was a nobody. The mat weaver's daughter, the poor girl from the lower hill. She opened her mouth to speak, but words failed her. The air between them was thick with feelings she couldn't name. Then suddenly, she felt his hands on her face, warm, firm, trembling. And before she could even think or breathe, his lips covered hers. Heat rushed through her body like a wave of fire. Her knees weakened, her heart stumbled. Never in her life had she felt something so powerful, so strange and so sweet. Ikemba hesitated for a heartbeat, waiting for her to resist. But she didn't. She stood still, lost in the moment. So, he kissed her again, this time deeper, as every feeling he had bottled up for weeks came pouring out like wine from a broken gourd. The river seemed to sing louder. The sky seemed to lean closer, and time itself stopped to watch. And from that moment, their relationship took a new turn. Their love blossomed, slow and sweet, like the gentle bloom of hibiscus flower after the morning dew. It began with the shy smiles and small laughter, then grew into soft touches and long conversations that stretched into the night. Before long, the palace guards began to whisper. Even the wind seemed to hum their secrets. Something was different about Prince Ikemba, and everyone could see it. The prince, who once walked through the palace with quiet steps, now whistled as he passed. His eyes sparkled. His laughter returned. Even the servants said the air around him had changed, lighter, warmer, as if happiness itself now followed him. The palace cook murmured one morning, tasting her soup. This must be love. Only love can make a man this gentle and distracted. Yesterday, he poured wine into his soup and was smiling as if it was honey. Everyone laughed, but they all knew it was true. Prince Ikemba was in love. Only his most loyal guards knew the whole truth. They had seen him sneak out through the back gate with that same dreamy smile. They had followed quietly on their horses, pretending not to see what they saw. The prince and the maiden disappearing into the forest path that led to the great waterfall. That waterfall had become their secret world, a place of laughter, songs, and stolen moments. The prince called it the heart of the earth. They would sit there side by side, watching the shimmering curtain of water tumble from the rocks above. Sometimes they talked about dreams, about life, about everything and nothing. Other times they said no words at all. They just sat together, listening to the sound of rushing water and singing birds. And when their playful spirits awoke, they would run around the river like two carefree children. Adaku would scoop water in her palms and throw it at him. "My prince," she would laugh, dodging his splashes. "You dare challenge the future king of Ikoko." Ikemba would roar dramatically, splashing even harder. And they would both burst into laughter, chasing each other until they fell breathless on the warm rocks. Some nights, when the moon was full and the forest glowed silver, Adaku would stand by the river and sing. Her voice would rise like incense to the heavens. The prince would sit nearby, his palm pressed to his chest, eyes closed, as her voice filled his mind and blessed his soul. He said her singing made the moon stop moving, and truly, it felt that way. But there were also nights when Adaku would pull him to his feet and tease, "My prince, tonight you must dance with me. Don't sit like a carved statue." He would laugh, shaking his head. "A prince does not dance." Then tonight she would grin. "You are not a prince, you are mine." And so they would dance, clumsy at first, but full of joy. The forest would come alive with their laughter. Their shadows would twirl in the moonlight, their hearts beating as one. Then, one night, under the whispering trees and the glow of fireflies, Adaku sang a new song. a playful romantic song, and she dragged the prince to sing with her. Their voices filled the forest. Their laughter shook the trees.
Of love, I've fought with swords, I've tamed wild bulls, but your eyes have made me break all rules. Then dance, oh prince, don't hide your grace. Let laughter light your royal face. The gods are watching, the stars agree that love was made.
They were happy, so happy that even the gods must have smiled upon them. Every time they met, the air felt charged with magic. The trees swayed in rhythm to their laughter. The river sparkled like it was keeping their secrets. It was a love so pure, so warm, that even the cold stones of the waterfall seemed to glow. Everything seemed to be flowing perfectly between them, until one afternoon. The sun sat high and proud, and even the shadows seemed to gossip. Prince Ugabata rode through the village on his horse, with the kind of stride that makes people step aside. Heavy step, high head, cloak swinging like a banner. He loved the sound of his own name whispered after him. As he trudged down the path leading to the stream, his eyes caught something that made him breathless. It was Adako returning from the river that afternoon with her friends, as she laughed while sharing a story. They bowed in fear as soon as they saw Ugwabata, and he just couldn't take his eyes off her. She looked so beautiful, really beautiful. He had never seen such beauty before. "Who is she?" he asked one of his men. The man who had walked behind the prince since he was a small boy swallowed and pointed with a trembling finger as he whispered, "I have seen her before, with Prince Ikemba," he replied, his voice low as if the breeze might hear. "I think they are both friends." Ugwabata's nostrils fled. He smiled, a smile with teeth like knives. Ugwabata nodded. "I like her, and I want her to myself. You will win her for me. Do anything it takes. Women are just like goats. The highest bidder always wins." The guard bowed himself, as if his spine were a reed in the wind. He muttered the words that would start a story of trouble. "Yes, my prince." Those words were small, but they carried like a bell. And that was how it began. Everyday gifts from the royal palace landed at Adaku's doorsteps. Baskets of fruits, mangoes so ripe that they could make the teeth sing, jars of honey thick as the sun, bolts of clothes with patterns like river ripples, jewelries. At first, when Adaku saw the royal guards, she had thought Prince Ikemba sent them, but then she saw a note in one of the baskets. It told another tale, inked in bold letters, signed with Ugabata's proud name. Adaku frowned. She rejected the gifts immediately. "Please, tell the prince that I am honored. But I do not need the gifts," she told the servants. "My heart is already taken, and it has no more space to love another." Her voice was so calm and polite that the servants couldn't even argue. But when he returned to the palace and reported to Ugwabata, the first response he got was a hot, deafening slap. The slap sounded like a drum in the quiet hall. The man staggered, his cheek burning like fresh pepper. He opened his mouth to explain, to say that Adaku had bowed with respect and given blessings. But the prince's fury did not wait for excuses. "How dare you? How dare you return without convincing her? Fool! Good for nothing! Animal!" he screamed. "And who is that useless man that she has given her heart to? Is he better than me?" He backed, his shoulders raised as he paced furiously. The hall shook with his words. Servants, who had been polishing brass fools, at a favorite hound, crawled under the foot of a stool to hide. Ugwabata's face was red as cooked palm nuts. He could not bear the thought that anyone, least of all a poor maiden, would choose his brother over him. "How many carriages of gifts did you take there today?" The guard swallowed and said, "One, my prince." "Idiot! You will return there tomorrow with 6 full loads. Tell her Ugwabata wants her." The order fell like a thunderbolt. The servant ran out, the echo of his sandals a small drum that matched the pounding of his heart. With each passing day, Ugwabata grew more terrifying. He sent men at dawn, at noon, at dusk. He ordered chests of clothes, strings of beads, and barrels of wine, all to be laid at Adaku's doorstep, like a river meant to drown her refusal. But even with the 6, Adaku turned him down. He increased it to 10. 10 carriages, a small fortune rolling through the village with trumpets and servants. And still Adaku's heart stayed closed, like a closed calabash. Each time, she told the servants that her heart belonged elsewhere. Adaku knew that she should have told Prince Ikemba about his brother's advances, but she didn't want them to fight over her. She didn't want to be the one to come between two brothers. She feared the storm that might follow if names were spoken. Ikemba was kind, gentle, but he would be hurt to know. Her heart turned to its secret shame. Better to carry the burden herself than to let swords cross for a mat weaver's daughter. After the 5th rejection, Ugwabata was almost running mad. He had had several maidens in this kingdom, and none of them had ever proven difficult for him to get. Why was hers different? Was she expecting him to stoop so low and come beg by himself? No. He was a prince and would never do that. Pride sat nested in Ugwabata's chest like a hot coal. He was used to breaking resistance with a look, to bending will with a promise, to buying what others kept as treasure. This refusal tasted bitter and foreign. He paced into the night, tugging at his beard and tossing his spear against the wall. He had done his findings and discovered that she was having an affair with his brother. He was the one she had given her heart to. The word affair landed like a stone in his head and rolled into a pit of fury. Jealousy is a cunning fox. It became his shadow. He imagined the secret smiles, the quick hands, the prince's gentle voice whispering in the dark. Images he couldn't stand swelled until his blood boiled. He grabbed a pipe from his table, lighted it, and puffed the smoke out slowly. That fool, that snake, just knows how to get everything I want before I even find it, he said bitterly. This time, he wouldn't allow it happen. It was either he had her himself or nobody gets to have her. He breathed like a man in fever, his eyes glowing with evil. You will go get her for me, he commanded his servants. She dares to reject my advances. Who is she, and what gives her the effrontery? Drag her here if she refuses to come, he thundered, as his eyes burned with rage. The servants flinched. The order was a tide, sweeping, relentless. They scurried off immediately with ropes coiled on their arms, their faces set like flints. The palace that once hummed with music now hummed with a danger that tasted of iron. That night, when the moon slid behind the clouds, Ugwabata's men rode out like shadows. The prince himself paced his chambers, his eyes burning with jealousy that felt like fever. The smell of roasted corn floated through the air, children's laughter filled the dusty paths, and smoke curled lazily from cooking huts. Meanwhile, at the edge of the village, where the wind carried the scent of red earth and palm oil, Adaku was cooking with her mother. The pot of pottage simmered happily, sending up clouds of delicious aroma. Her mother Nena stirred with a wooden spoon, while Adaku laughed as she sliced vegetable into the pot. Mama, Adaku giggled. You should have seen Maziuche today. He tripped while chasing his goat and fell into that pile of cassava peels. Nena laughed so hard that her wrapper almost slipped. Ha! That man will never learn. Every time he's always chasing his goat. I think his goat has grown wiser than him. They both laughed again, so loudly that the neighbors turned and smiled. Life was peaceful, sweet, and simple, just the way Adaku liked it. But peace, besties, is like a clay pot. It can shatter in one careless moment. Before long, the laughter died. The sound of galloping horses broke through the calm night. The air changed. Mama Nina frowned, stepping out of the hut to see what was coming. Who could be riding like this by this time, she asked. Then they appeared, the palace guards, in full armor, their faces hard as carved stone. The villagers froze as the men rode into the compound, scattering dust. Children hid. The leader of the guards dismounted. Adaku, he barked. By the order of the prince, Ugwabata, you are to come with us to the palace now. Adaku's heart pounded. What does the prince want with me? I've told him. My heart belongs to someone else. The guards avoided her eyes. The prince gives no reason. Please, come peacefully. Mama Nena stepped forward, and if she refuses, she asked, her voice trembling but firm. The man hesitated, remembering the words of his master, drag her if she refuses. Adaku shook her head slowly. Tell the prince I will not come. Tell him I owe him no visit. I have done nothing wrong. Adaku, please, one of the younger guards whispered, pity flashing in his eyes. Don't make this hard for us. But Adaku's voice rose boldly. I will not go. Tell your prince that my heart belongs to another, and no force under the sky can change that. The leader clenched his jaw. Then, you leave us no choice. Before anyone could blink, Two guards leaped forward. Mama Nena screamed and tried to stop them, but they shoved her aside. Adako struggled, crying as they grabbed her arms. Her wooden spoon fell to the ground with a loud clatter. "Let me go! Leave me!" she cried, kicking and twisting, but their grip was iron. Her mother's wail filled the air. "Adako, my child, my daughter, where are they taking her to?" The guards did not answer. They followed the prince's cruel command. Her screams echoed through the village, wild, desperate, heart-wrenching. Doors flung open. Faces peered out, but no one dared move. Everyone knew that to stand between Prince Ugwabata and his madness was to court death. Her cries echoed through the palace gate as Ugwabata smiled evilly while she was being dragged to him. He sat in his private chamber, legs crossed, sipping palm wine lazily. The sound of her struggle thrilled him. "Ah," he murmured, grinning darkly. The little dove finally flaps her wings. Her cries grew louder, echoing through the marble halls, until even the guards at the far gate exchanged uneasy glances. But then, Prince Ikemba heard the familiar scream. He froze. His hand, which had been holding a scroll, trembled. That voice, he knew it better than his own heartbeat. He stood abruptly, his heart pounding like a talking drum. He tried to convince himself that it was his mind playing tricks, because how was it possible? Then came another cry, louder this time, ripping through the air. Just as he turned towards the door, his most loyal guard orderly burst into his chamber, trembling. His chest rose and fell, as if he had outrun thunder. "There is trouble, my prince. Ukwabata has your woman, Adako, tied up like a goat, and he has dragged her to the secret room. And..." "What?" Ikemba shouted, his voice echoing like thunder. His eyes flamed with fury as he threw down the scroll. He didn't wait for orderly to finish. He stormed out, his feet pounding the marble floor. The guards at the door jumped aside, terrified. "Where is she?" he roared as he tore through the corridor, his royal robe billowing behind him like a storm cloud. But before he reached the secret room, he heard a wrenching scream tore through the air. A scream so sharp and sorrowful that it cut through his soul. Prince Ikemba's cry tore through the palace like a spear through silence. "Adako!" And the palace froze. From the courtyards to the kitchens, everyone stopped. The maids dropped their water pots, the guards exchanged uneasy glances. Even the drummers in the distant square stopped mid-beat. Something was about to happen. Something that would shake the kingdom of Ikoku forever. For when love and power collide, the earth itself trembles. Hey besties, we've come to the end of the part 1 of this story, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Please do not forget to drop your comments and share your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the story. If you enjoy our stories and you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please do not skip this video without hitting on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Thank you so much for all your love and support. That means so much to me.